Today we will begin with the overview of the SQL Server and then move on with the installation and configuration of SSMS. Yes, I could see that almost all of you have done it. Okay, then it is good. What I will do is I will start with the overview of the SQL Server now and in today's session, and then we will skip this part because already we have installed it, right? All of you installed, but those of you have issues, we'll discuss it later, okay? And then we will take a look at the data types that are available as part of the SQL Server, and then we will see the built-in built-in functions that are available as part of the SQL Server, especially for the data types, okay? Okay, so what is SQL Server? What is SQL Server? SQL Server is a relational database management system. It is Microsoft product. There are 4 different editions of SQL softwares are available. SQL Server softwares are available. The one is the Express, and I guess all of you have installed Express only. Okay, the other one is the developer edition. Both of these editions are free. Okay, it doesn't involve any licensing cost. And the next one is the standard and enterprise. So this is for the enterprises. Okay, enterprise or companies, and the standard is a licensed one, and the enterprise is also licensed one. Okay, next we will see what is database management system. Before we dive in, let us understand the fundamentals. What is database management system? So database management system is a program, right? It is a software. It enables the users to access the database or store the database. Okay, it stores the database and manipulate the data. Whatever you stored it, you can manipulate it. Okay, and there are 2 types of database system. One second. So database management software, and it's a program. Okay, it enables us to store the data, and then it enables users to access the stored data, and they can manipulate the data. They can insert the data, they can modify the data, and they can delete the records, whichever they think, or you think are not relevant, you can delete it. And also, right, once you store the data, you can access it anytime, and you can fetch the data, and then you can create reports also. There are 2 types of RDBMS. The one is the relational database. See, in the case of RDBMS, sorry, database management system, or in the case of database management system, there are 2 types. One is the relational database management system, and other one is non-relational database. Non-relational database. Okay, relational database and non-relational database. Okay, and what are the non-relational database? What are the examples for this one? The document data store. Okay, document data store, and column-oriented database. Column-oriented database. We discussed about the column-oriented as part of DAX, right? A column-oriented database. And the example for the column-oriented, this one, Apache Cassandra and HBase, or the column-oriented database. And even the case of Xvelocity, convert your source data from the tabular format to columnar data store in the case of import connectivity mode. And the other one is, like I said, right, so document data store, document data store. And then we have something else called graph database. Okay, and the document data stores are like XML and YAML, and JSON, BSON, or as plain text. Okay, so these are the column-oriented, the document data store related thing, and then column-oriented is Apache Cassandra. And the graph database, there are some graph database are also available. And we are going to learn about the relational database. The SQL Server is a relational database management system. Okay. Now the question is, okay, relational database management. What is RDBMS? What is RDBMS? RDBMS stands for Relational Database Management System. Why is it called Relational Database Management System? In this case, RDBMS, The data is stored in tables that are linked via the relationship. Look here, these two tables were linked via the relationship. For example, in this case, right, we have two tables here, and this table where we keep all of our company's employees' data, and the other table holds all the department's data in it. Supposing you want to generate a report which should have the employee name, So, one second, which should have the employee name. It should one second. Which should have the employee name and then department name. The report should have these two columns in it, okay, and salary, maybe salary, okay. But here the department name is available in department table. So, and the employee name is available in employee table, okay. In order to display these two columns, I need to get these two columns from these two different tables. Since these two columns are having two different tables, we need to join it. In order to join it, we need to make sure that we are joining these two tables using a relationship, right? You need to have the relationship between the tables. You need to define the relationship. You cannot blindly join the tables. You need to define the relationship. How do you define the relationship? By by linking the common column between these two tables. This I discussed as part of the data modeling in Power BI. Okay. So what are the common columns between these two tables? Depart number and depart number. Okay. In this table, the depart number is the primary key column. In this table, the depart number is a foreign key column because the values for this column comes outside of this table. From where it is coming here, whatever the depart number that you have defined as part of your department table, it is also called as a lookup table or the master table or the dimensional table. Okay, the whatever the values that you define it as part of the depart number, the same value should be there here. Not necessarily all the values you have, it should be there here, but you're not supposed to use a depart number in employee table which doesn't exist in your department table's depart number column. Okay, so now these two tables have the common column. With this, when you create the relationship between these two tables, you will be able to extract these two columns from these two tables simultaneously. Okay. So in the case of relational database management, we need to create the relation between the tables. We need to link the tables using the common key columns. So this is that is the reason why we call this as a relational database management system. So next we will explore what is SQL and TSQL. What is the difference between these two? What is an SQL? SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and it is a standard language. We use it to query the data which you stored it in your table, and then or you can store the data and you can manipulate the data, retrieve the data in databases. You have your SQL Server. In this SQL Server, you create the database. In that database, you created the tables. You stored all the data, necessary data for your project also. To communicate to the SQL Server, you need to use a language called SQL language. Okay, once you store the data using SQL queries, we can access the data, we can describe the data, we can manipulate the data. Okay, and this is the communication. Okay, you can use the SQL queries to communicate with the database. Okay, let's say you sell variety of products and you want to see which all products are stored in the database, right? In that case, you write a query like select star from products. Okay, in Microsoft, we have something called Transact SQL, TSQL. Instead of saying SQL, they named it as a Transact SQL. It is an extension of the SQL languages. Okay, it is primarily used in Microsoft Server databases and software. Which one? The TSQL. Okay, T stands for Transact SQL. So what is Transact? Why they named it as TSQL instead of using SQL? Why they named it as a Transact? So in TSQL, a batch is a group of one or more Transact SQL statements, that we submit as a single unit to the SQL Server database engine. to be executed together. Okay. So here you can submit your SQL queries in batches. A batch can have more than one valid transact SQL statements, like select star from a table and then insert the table. So select, insert, update, delete, all right. You want to use multiple SQL statements to be sent together to your SQL server in one go. The transact SQL is very much helpful, right? With this, you can create a batch. Batch is nothing but group of one or more SQL statements. Okay, now you might be asking why batch. Batches are helpful for different reasons. Okay, it allows us to submit multiple execute or multiple SQL statements to be executed together. Okay, which can be more efficient than executing each statement individually. Okay, instead of sending one queries, if you send multiple queries in one go, it'll be pretty faster. The performance will be faster. Okay. So that is also the reason why they named it as the Transact SQL. You might be wondering, okay, so is that feature not available in other RDBMS? It is available, but not like Transact SQL. Since the other RDBMS, you can submit the SQL queries one after other, but if you want to group them together as a batch, you need to use a stored procedure or stored function. But here it is not like that. Okay, even with the in your SSMS tool also, right, you can write the batch of multiple SQL statements and then you can submit them in one go using a keyword called go. Okay, go. Now you understood the difference between SQL and TSQL. T stands for transact. Transact SQL is an extension of SQL languages. Okay, we have already installed SQL Server and SSMS, SQL Server Management Studio, and so I'm going to skip this topic. And now let us directly jump into the data types.